it allows for us to, really interact with our consumer. And we're going to go over a couple of things. We're going to go over the PowerPoint, just basically showing you what we do. Obviously, it's more than just credit. I'm just pulling up the PowerPoint right now. Okay, so as you can see, this is our basics of credit and how to recover from credit hardships. Obviously, I am Tyrone Glover. I'm the CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to give us 45 minutes of your afternoon. And it's greatly appreciated, so thank you so much. We are Leverage Credit Recovery. We help individuals. If you don't see me, there I am. I'm the guy there with the glasses on, a little grayish, and the beard there, bald head. I am the founder, CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery, founder and CEO of soon-to-be Young Entrepreneurs USA, which is where we teach the youth to actually go into the world financially prepared instead of financially unprepared. And we're going to be creating several different chapters throughout the community. So we're going to have, obviously, I live in the state of New York, and our chapter is here, the Yonkers Young Entrepreneurs. So it's all about the children going forward. Obviously, we're going to be helping the adults. Leverage Credit Recovery. Our motto is first we educate, then we recover. And everyone, really, got to understand it. Education is top and foremost when it comes to leverage credit recovery. If we're not educated, we tend to miss out on some of those very key important elements. So credit is something that everybody is going to need. No question about it. You're going to need credit. You're going to need it. Cash is king, but credit is power. And the more that you understand about how it works, the easier it's going to be for you to navigate through. Please, at any time, I'm going to open up for Q&A. So if you have questions, start writing them down. Then this way, once that Q&A pops up, then we can address it as quickly as we need to. So, leverage credit recovery, our core focus is consumer education related to credit products and services. We obviously dive into the areas of credit recovery, and the reason why we call it recovery is we want to get away from this fixing thing or repairing thing. You can fix a car. You can repair a window. You can repair a broken leg. You can fix certain things, but credit can't fix. Actually, what you have to do is you have to recover from it. It's an illness. We as consumers love to shop. We love to get ourselves into situations, and then once we're in there, we don't necessarily know how to recover from it. So we've changed the verbiage. We're not fixing anything. We're not repairing anything. We're helping you recover from it. Once you recover from it, you learn new techniques, new methods about doing things, so it makes life that much easier. And we have clients, and I believe you are one of those clients, that is going through summary judgment. Our job is to, again, help you with understanding what's inside a judgment. What is it, first and foremost? How'd you get into it? What led up to it? So, again, we go over all of these pieces when we're dealing with our clients to make sure that they are fully educated. As a summary judgment protection, what we want to do is we want to educate you because you're a pro se litigant. That means you're going into court, you're dealing with the situation all on your own. If you had a lawyer, they would charge you anywhere from $200 to $800 an hour. They would go in and they would settle. They would settle for far more than what the FTC basically is telling you that debt is being bought for. So technically, you would obviously come out of pocket even much more than dealing with it on your own. And last but not least, the document preparation. We want to make sure that you have everything that's adequate for you to go in, present it to whatever bodies that might be asking for information so that you have it with the lawyer's perspective, meaning we have law firms or lawyers who work with us and help us make sure that your documents are spot on. All right? What is credit? Credit is an arrangement that allows consumers to buy goods and services now and pay for them later. That's basically what credit is in a nutshell. You get it now, you pay for it later with interest rates. No question about it. And you can get low interest rates depending on how good your credit is, or you can get hit with high interest rates depending on how bad your credit is. I don't like really using the word bad, but it's one of those situations. Moving on, the advantages of using credit, the use of goods and services as you pay for them. So having shopping sprees. We all know Christmas, birthdays, holidays, we tend to get a little bit aggressive with our shopping, and we really got to kind of reel that in because we shouldn't be going out there buying things that we don't necessarily need to impress people that we don't even like. The opportunities to buy costly items that you might not be able to buy with cash. Buying a car. Cars, depending on where you live, if you live in rural areas, you're going to need transportation to get back and forth. Sometimes those bus schedules, depending on where you live, they might not run all the way up until. And I look at it like this. If you're going to pay Lyft, Uber, taxis, all of that money in a 30-day period, you might want to think about, you know what? It'd probably be best for me to just have a car. The convenience for emergencies, unexpected expenses. I just found out that the #1 reason why people go broke or bankrupt is because of medical debt. And a lot of your medical debt technically should not be ending up on your credit profile because those people have been paid already if you have insurance. And a lot of times, because if they're waiting for the insurance to pay, they'll sneak and throw one of those items on your credit report. So that's why we always tell consumers, have a copy of your credit report. It's best to enroll in a system, which is, we use Privacy Guard, we use Identity IQ, and those are good monitoring tools to have. Some of you already now are using, it's called Credit Karma. Again, nothing against them. They're third-party institutions, and it's always best to, again, don't concentrate so much on the number. Concentrate more on the data. It's just like taking a test. If you take a test and you get a great score, but the teacher grades you wrong, you should be questioning the teacher as to what happened here. So it's the same thing when you get your bank statement or when you get your credit report every 30 days. If there's something wrong on your credit report, you got to address it because the teacher, which is the bureaus or the agencies, they're the ones who are giving you your grade. So you got to make sure that you're getting properly graded on those items. Moving on, some of the disadvantages of using credit cards, reductions of future income, spending futures income now, and living beyond your means. Well, in this particular situation, I wouldn't say that we're living beyond our means because our means have never been sufficiently met. So if you are someone who's making minimum wage, technically you should be by $23 to $28 an hour and not where we currently are, which some of us are just hovering around $15 an hour. So there's a lot in that realm that needs to be made up. Expenses and temptations. Sometimes we tend to buy a little too much, as I indicated earlier, buying things to impress people that we don't even like. So really got to get out of that range. And then risk of serious consequences, if you misuse your credit. And that's one thing that we really, really, really don't need to do. I tell people now, allocate your cards. Have cards for groceries. It's easy to bring down a $300 or a $400 or a $500 card than it is to bring down a $2,000 or $3,000, sometimes even a $5,000 card. And if you allocate it, you tend to stay within your budget. Whereas if you don't allocate it, you'll just go out there and spend, and you got to stay between a certain percentile, and we'll talk more about that as we do further conference calls. But we want to show you some of the advantages and disadvantages of using credit cards. Here's another very important thing, your credit rating. What is a credit rating? Credit rating, the creditor evaluates for a person's ability and willingness to pay debt. Credit report, a history or record of a person's financial and credit practices, and your credit score is a numerical expression of a person's credit worthiness. So all three of these pieces are very important. They're rating you, they're giving you a report, and once they give you that report, they're giving you a score. And that score is basically what is going to be determined whether or not you get credit, what interest rate you're going to have, and if those first two items are in line, that credit score should be also equally in line. So what impacts your credit? Now, this is important, and it's important for everyone to know it. Now, look at these two areas here. 65% of your overall credit is in payment history, and it's in how much you owe. So if you mess up in these two areas, you're not going to be able to make it up here. It's just that simple. Math is a wonderful tool, and we should use it a lot more. But you can clearly see 65% of your entire score is in two areas. So payment history. If you're paying your payments on time, you're good to go. Even if you're paying the minimum payment, you're still good to go. That minimum payment is going to affect, obviously, your payment history. What you ultimately want to do is get beyond just making the minimum payment. That's where this here comes into play, that 30%. You want to keep that in the range of 23%. So say, for instance, you had a $1,000 credit card. You went out and you spent $1,000 on that credit card, so you maxed it out. You have to bring that back down to $230 because that's going to put you in that 23% threshold. And what I mean by that is, as a lender, if you max out, that means you're using 100% of your credit. So the lender's going to be looking at you like, woo, you used 100%. So that means you have nothing available. So you're at the very top. You bring it down to 70%, you're still within that area of concern. They call that the risk area. You bring it down to 60, bring it down to 50, you're teetering now. Now you're in the range where the creditors be like, oh, well, you know what, you're still okay, but you can go either way. You keep it at that 23%, that's gold. Because the lender now knows I'm making a little bit of money off of you, and if you need credit which we're all going to need for future purchases, the lender's going to give you credit at a much, much lower interest rate. And it's always best to get your credit at a low interest rate just in case something happens. God forbid, loss of a job. God forbid, loss of a spouse, major breadwinner. Anything could happen. You go on vacation, you forget to mail that credit card payment off, and then boom, next thing you know it, you're in that double-digit area where none of us really want to be. All right, so it's easier to get something down when we're managing it properly than to have it so high and then try to get it down when we're mismanaging it. And again, we'll talk more about that as we go on, but you can clearly see, as I stated, two of these areas is 65% of your overall credit. You're not going to make it up in these areas here. It's just not going to happen. But you also want to check these areas just to make sure that everything is going accordingly. Types of credit. There are 5 different types of credit. You have a mortgage. That's one. Rent, technically, in my opinion, should be, and we're working on finding institutions that are also going to allow for you to obviously put your rent, because me personally, if they can ding you for negative, then why can't they reward you for good? Which a lot of these institutions out there don't believe in rewarding you for good. They just want to ding you for the negative. Well, I disagree with that. If I'm doing good, reward me for good. Don't just reward me for the bad. So the types of credit. So your mortgage is one. There's something called installments. Installments are basically auto loans, motorcycles, things that are large purchases where that payment does not change. It stays the same. There's revolving. We all know what revolving is. Those are your credit cards, where those credit cards from month to month, the amount that you're paying is going to change. You have other store cards. Store cards are like Macy's, Old Navy, Gap, things of that nature that does not and is not associated with a credit card because it doesn't have the logos. What I mean by logos, it doesn't have MasterCard, doesn't have Visa, doesn't have Discovery, doesn't have American Express. So you can get store cards, or you can get gas cards. I know BP is one of the bigger ones. Chevron equally is another one that offers gas cards. So you have a different variety of credit cards. And then new accounts, this is where it falls into that inquiry range. Inquiries run between 15 to 25 points. So you really got to be careful with inquiries. And I tell consumers no more than 5 inquiries a year. If you're doing that, you look desperate. Creditors will ding you if you're looking desperate. They will give you credit, again, if your credit score is within that range, but they're going to charge you a much higher interest rate. Plus, the more inquiries you make, the more it's going to drop your score. So say, for instance, Christmas comes around, and everybody's out offering deals. So every store you go to, they go, oh, do an inquiry, get 10% off. Well, 10% really isn't anything if you think about it. It's nothing. Now, if they're going to give you 50% or 60% off, that's a good deal. But 10% to get an inquiry and to maybe get the item, and then if you get the item, they're going to charge you 24% interest. So what does 10% do when you get a 24% interest? It does absolutely nothing. So avoid the inquiries as much as possible. That last piece, length of history. And people really got to go back and check their length of history. We're noticing that some creditors aren't even putting all of your credit information in. Most consumers could probably have a much higher credit score if the lenders, or if consumers, one, was monitoring it, and two, if the lenders were reporting everything accordingly. But they're not, and we're finding that out, that that's hurting consumers' credit reports. So these factors, and you can look these up online, get a copy, these factors are really important. Nothing that we're making up. You can clearly see that that's coming from the FICO. So FICO is the Fair Isaac Corporation. And you can go right to their website, and they have tools, tips, and things that one could use to improve their credit situations. But since you already have someone who knows it, I'm just showing you where the source is and where we get our information from. Moving on, here are your credit factors. Credit scores, categories, scores and categories. Excellent, good, fair, poor, bad. 70% of the population lives within this area, this fair to poor or bad area. 70% of the population, that's 230 million people in this country live within this range right here. That means they're paying somewhere on the 24% interest rate for their goods and services. 24% upwards. And if you're paying that much on your goods and services, you need to be doing a lot of work to get away from that area. As you creep up, your goods and services get much, much cheaper. Now, I would love to be able to see consumers live in this area here, because the good is going to get you somewhere in the upper single digits. So it's okay to get a credit card at 9% or 8% or 7%. That's okay. Because if you make a slight mistake or you miss, still in a negotiation piece where you can tell them, hey, you know what, my apologies, whatever, can I get good faith removal of that negative item, more than likely they'll help you. If you're in this area here, you're talking about 2%. Now that's a good place to be. That's an excellent place. That's why they call it excellent. That's an excellent place to be right here. That means you're understanding how your credit works. You're doing everything properly. You're meeting your, not just meeting your minimum, but you're paying that down to that 23%. You always have a great range of being able to use your credit effectively. You're allocating your cards accordingly. So you're following all of the steps that one needs to maintain this area, because credit should always be going in an upwards trajectory. It shouldn't be this roller coaster. It's up and down, round and round. It shouldn't be that way. Credit should always be every 30 days you should see it going up, 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 up. Moving on to the next one. Here are the 3 C's of credit. Character. Responsible financial history. You really want to be someone who understands why their credit is in the area in which it is. You create your own credit situations. Capacity, earning power, and employment history. You got to have a great income, not necessarily a stellar income, but a good income, because you don't want to have to rob from Peter to pay Paul. And we're seeing that a lot. A lot of individuals are running into situations where they're like, ooh, man, if I just had an extra $200-300. Well, there's a way to get that, and you can get it right from your credit. Just got to manage it properly. And, of course, capital, financial worth. How much are we worth? And a lot of what we're worth comes from how we're understanding our credit. So, again, credit is essential. It's essential. As I stated before, cash is king, but credit is power. As I stated, credit recovery encompasses actions which you take now and going forward to correct inaccuracies in your credit report and build or rebuild a favorable credit profile. That's why we call it credit recovery. Again, a lot of these companies out there with the fixing and the repairing, those things have led consumers into horrible, horrible situations, because they're giving up their control and leaving it into someone else's hands. You can't do that. You have to monitor these things every single time. You have to monitor them. You have to do it. Credit is a pulse, and it's just as active as you are. And if you're doing the right things by it, then you'll see the improvements. You'll see the recovery. But if you're not, fixing it is not something that we should be attempting to do. You can't fix credit. You can't repair it. You have to recover from some of the situations that we put ourselves in. So again, the only difference between what we do and what others do is they're attempting to fix something, and we're attempting to educate individuals so that they can go back into the world with a better understanding of their recovery. Here are the major credit bureaus. Now, Donald.
Yes.
Have you heard of bureaus before, right?
I'm sorry?
You've heard of bureaus before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, why do you think they call them bureaus?
Because it's basically a group rather than individuals.
To a degree, you're absolutely right. I'll give you that. But think of something else. Think of something a little bit more scarier. Anything come to mind when you think of something scary? 3 letters?
No, I'm not right now.
No?
Sorry.
How about FBI?
Oh, yeah.
Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Right.
That is the only reason why they call these bureaus. The only reason. To scare people. To give people the false equivalence of this being an actual agency that is regulated, or excuse me, that is a government agency. It's not. These are just for-profit institutions that don't do nothing but make oodles of money off of data. Nothing but. And the saddest part about it is that they make so much money that they get hit with so many fines. But put it to you like this. If they make billions of dollars, do you think millions of dollars in fines even hinder them?
No.
Not in the least bit. Not at all. And that's the saddest part about all of this.
Same thing goes with the Better Business Bureau.
There you go again. Another one. Another institution that all it does is hold on to information.
Right.
These agencies, and the only reason why we left bureaus is because it gives me a great talking point, but these agencies, again, regulated by our government to do according to our consumer protection laws, but yet they don't, because they know that, hey, I get a fine, oh well, I'll pay a couple of $1 million and done. And then the saddest part, or I won't say the saddest part, but the most ingenious part about this is they get hit with a fine, that's considered a loss to their business.
Sure.
So if it's a loss, you can turn around, you can write off the loss.
Yep.
So you get back the very same fine that you just was levied against. So it's a win-win for these companies, and now they're using something called eOscar, which is, again, everybody look it up. eOscar is a system, it's an algorithmic system that allows for them to, in my opinion, cheat. And it's sad. Algorithms today now are doing things that we never thought possible. And all it is just programming something into a computer to give a false narrative of what really is. It's not going into the hands of people any longer. All your disputes or your challenges now are being scanned into the system. That system evaluates it. It kicks back whatever result it wants to per the institution's programming. So that's the number one reason why I never tell consumers to go online to do their challenges. Because your challenges online limits you to about 3 to 5 different challenges. Whereas if you challenge them per a letter, you have not necessarily endless, but you have a good variety of things that you can put into a letter that will not be, shall we say, excluded from the online challenges. So a letter is much better than doing anything online. So again, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, these are for-profit institutions making a lot of money. So please don't think for a second that these are government agencies. They don't do nothing but, obviously, as I said, hold information. They're called repositories, and that's their sole job is to, in my opinion, create havoc that costs you, the consumer, that much more. So you've got to make sure you're checking your information by these 3 agencies. How to challenge errors. Very, 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 very simple. Writing a letter. Request your credit report. First thing, you got to have the data. If you don't have the data, nothing to request. Just like a doctor. Doctor, when you go to the doctor's going to put you through the mill. They're going to take blood. They're going to do the blood pressure. They're going to check the temperature. They're going to ask for samples, stool, urine. They're going to run you through the EKG. They're going to hook you up to the electrons and all these other things so they can get back data. Once they have that data, they're going to pull you into the office. Then they're going to go over it. Same exact thing here. Request your credit report. That's me putting you through the EKGs and all of the things I just explained. Then carefully check all information within your credit report. If you don't check it, what good is having it? Have someone who can go over it with you, because we're not clever enough to go over it by ourselves. We don't know a lot of the stuff in there. So we need someone who can go over it with us. Identify items you need to challenge. Again, the verbiage is everything. Challenge is basically saying, I agree with what you're saying, I'm just not 100% in line with what the actual data is. So I'm challenging the validity of an item. A dispute basically tells an individual, oh, that wasn't me, I didn't do that. So there is a huge difference between what we challenge and what is disputed. That's why we have changed the verbiage to challenge. We are not disputing anything. We're basically saying, don't agree with what you have here. Let's go over the validity. Write letters to credit bureaus and your creditors. Again, this is how you get it off. We go through Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Once we get back some results, we now have a new approach, which then we send out another letter to those agencies. Again, you're thinking about this as if you were a lawyer. You're creating a case. So if for whatever reason you need to have all your documents to go to court, you're well prepared. Courts love documents. So if you got 3 and 4 and 5 challenges along with letters that you sent offering a settlement understanding, and you get into court, and then the lawyers from the other side, oh, well, you're going to have all your documents in a row. T's are going to be crossed, I's are going to be dotted. You're going to walk in there looking like a rock star. And they're not expecting that. Lawyers that sue individuals are not expecting consumers to be smart. 9 out of 10 is the number that I'm going to always throw out there. And what that means is if you get sued by a creditor, 9 out of 10 times the consumer who's getting sued will not answer the summons, nor will they report to court or show up to court. And what that basically means is an automatic judgment, a default judgment. So that means you're going to lose something, whether you lose wages because they can garnish, whether you use property because they can do a lien. So it's best to always address whatever comes in the mail, and also sometimes you're going to get that phone call. And I tell people now, do not run from those unknown numbers. Answer them. And here's how you get around that. They're going to call, they're going to say, hello, my name is John, and I'm calling from Applebee's credit company. Just throwing out fictitious names. And you're going to get on the phone disclosing everything. No. They say, I need to speak with Donald Orcutt. First thing you say is, I am a Donald Orcutt. That A changes the whole narrative. Because if you say, yeah, I'm Donald Orcutt, now they know they have the right person. By saying I am a Donald Orcutt, I can type your name into a browser, and you want to know how many Donald Orcutts may pop up? Quite a few. Quite a few. So you never know who they have. So don't tell them up front who you are. By addressing it with I am a Donald Orcutt, they're going to start asking you, well, we need to make sure, we need to verify X, Y, and Z. And then you flip the script. But before I get into any of this X, Y, and Z with you, who are you? I don't know you. You're just some random stranger calling my number. So before I do anything, you're going to have to verify to me who you are. Oh, that's not how we do things or whatever. Well, guess what? That's not how I do things either. So if you want anything from me, you're going to have to do that in writing. We'll send them a cease and desist. They're not able to call you any longer. If they want to correspond with you, it's going to be through writing. Once you have something in writing, then you can respond back to it more effectively. But over the phone, because you got to remember something. These calls are being recorded for quality assurance, for training purposes. Anything you say can and will be used against you. So that's why you don't want to disclose information that from a perfect stranger. Wait for 30 days by law. That's your protection for responses to your challenge. And 30 days is critical because after 30 days, according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, if they do not remove that item that they have not been able to validate, that item has to come off your credit report. And as I told you, using eOscar only allows for them to circumvent the law. Businesses are getting smarter to keep consumers more in debt. And that's why we, the consumer, have to equally get as smart as businesses. I'm an insider, and I've been an insider for the last 28 years. The only reason why let me rephrase that. The only reason why retail left me is because I wasn't going to put up with any more of their shenanigans. Wasn't going to do it. Wasn't going to do it. I have watched companies make billions of dollars and still complain about wages. Come on. You're barely paying any taxes to begin with. And you're going to complain about wages, but yet CEOs' compensations go through the roof? No, I got a problem with that. Lastly, repeat steps 3 and 5 as needed until you succeed in getting inaccuracies corrected and removed. There is no getting around it. There is no getting around it. What happens ultimately when you challenge an item on your credit report? Eventually, that company that's paying Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian to keep that item on your credit report will ultimately say, you know what? Why are we going to keep paying for somebody or paying to or into something where we're not making any money off that consumer? So eventually that company who has that item on your credit report is ultimately going to say, no, not going to respond. They don't respond. By law, Equifax has no other choice but to remove it off your credit report. Equally, while they're removing it, they have to provide you with an updated copy of your credit report. And they need to provide whom, what, where, how they sent that investigation through to you. You can't just send me back something saying, oh, we did an investigation. Who'd you talk to? Who'd you mail it to? Whom did you speak to? Okay, there's still a lot of things that we, the consumer, have as control, but we're not exercising it. Those 5 or 6 steps is exactly how you address credit concerns within your credit profile. Negative items, charge-offs, collections, hard inquiries, late payments, outdated information, judgment, clerical errors, questionable entries, accounts that are not yours, incorrect account numbers. These are all situations that we deal with on a regular basis, and you today might even have some of these on your credit reports. These items can come off your credit report. There's nothing in the law that states that these items must stay on your credit report for that 7 to 10 years. What it states on the actual or within the actual law is that these items can stay on your credit report. Now, can and must, 2 different words, clearly. One is a C, one is an M. Must is a definitive word, where can is a questionable word. So you can leave it on there or you can take it off. It's just up to you, the consumer, to be more diligent in requesting these items to come off your credit report. Now, most of these items here, if they're already closed and there's some late payments or some charge-offs or some collections, if they're already closed, that only hurts your ability to get credit. If they're active and they're open and you have, say, a late payment or a charge-off or a collection that is open, most charge-offs and collections, they're going to be closed. So you really don't have to worry about that. But if there is, for whatever reason, something that's in an open status, what that basically means is that that's now hurting your ability in 2 folds. It's hurting your ability to get credit, and it's also bringing down your credit score. So you always want to make sure that items are in a positive, that you're paying them down accordingly, and anything positive affects your credit score. Anything that's closed or that has been charged off, that's only affecting your ability to get credit. So that's why all 7 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all 11 of these items are critical. When you see them on your credit report, you have to address them. No other choice. That's why we do what we do, to give consumers all of the understanding so that they can go back into the world, 1, with a stellar credit report, and also understanding that now I know how to maintain it. How to improve your credit score: pay your debts on time. There's no getting around it. You pay on time, credit score goes up. It's just that simple. Minimum payments help, but again, minimum payments only keep you in that risk range. You don't want to be in the risk range, because when you're in the risk range, what technically happens, the lender will go maybe 30 days. They might go 60 days. They might even go 90 days. If you're in that risk category, they are eventually going to close your account. If they close your account, they're going to be demanding the full payment of whatever item is still left open. So you don't want to be in that risk area. If you're in the 50 percentile, obviously you're on a seesaw, so you're teetering. You could go either way. Lenders don't like anyone who's in that teetering range because they're just thinking, oh, this consumer could be one paycheck away from back up into the risk area. If you're managing your credit properly, you're hovering somewhere around that 23%. That tells the lender, wow, great consumer. They know how to pay their bills. They're paying everything down to a reasonable range where the lender, can make money, plus two, the credit or the individual borrowing has a great understanding, so they're always going to get their products and their services at the lowest possible interest rate. Don't carry too much debt. As we already have seen, manage that debt properly. Instead of putting everything on one credit card, spread it out. I would say ultimately everyone start looking into secured cards. Secured cards means you're using your own money. You don't want to get a secured card that's in a range of upwards of 12%, too much. If you're using your own money, you don't want to give someone more of your own money. Right now, I've seen the secured cards that are hovering around 7.99, upwards of 9.99. If you get into a 12, 13, upwards of that, you really want to reconsider. Do not do it. If you're giving someone $10 on a, if you're giving someone, say you get a $500 credit card, and you're giving someone, what is 23% of 500? So we got 500 times 23%. Roughly, you're giving them $11.50. That's okay. I can do that. I can give someone $11. That's not going to break the bank. That's not going to break the bank at all. Plus, it keeps you in a range where if you do need credit again, they're going to give you an interest rate of, say, 8% or 5% versus giving you an interest rate of 18% or 24%. That $10 is every bit of worth the investment. Do not close old unused accounts unless absolutely necessary. If you close an unused account, you're basically telling them, I don't need to know, I don't need you to report good stuff about me. Everyone needs someone to say something good about them. Everyone. So don't close it, manage it properly. Allocate it, if it's a credit card, allocate it to a specific task. If you have kids, take that one, and that would be just going out with your kids once a week. If it's groceries, allocate a card just for groceries. Allocate a card just for Christmas. Gifting. Allocate these cards so we don't run around here with huge balance. When you have a huge balance and your income is not sufficient enough, it's challenging to get those balances down. And winning the lotto, I don't think that's a necessary step that we should be taking. Playing it, by all means. But playing the lotto and winning the lotto, two different things. You're likely to get struck by lightning twice before you win the lotto. And I don't know if I want to get struck by lightning. And the last point here, apply for new credit only when you need it. Inquiries have a huge impact. Again, biggest situation that we find ourselves is during holiday season. We go out and we hear all the deals and we see all the offers and everyone's walking around the store because, again, I come from that range. I come from that area where that was one of our requirements, to get people to sign up for credit. Get people to sign up for credit. Get them to sign up for credit. That was one of the basic requirements in a lot of the stores that I worked in. And if you weren't hitting those credit numbers, we pulled you into the office and asked you, what's going on? What's the matter? How come? That did determine whether or not someone kept their job or lost their job. All right, so again, those 5 points are critical to maintaining a good credit score. All right. So that concludes our credit presentation. Quick, to the point, no hesitation. We want to thank you. Also, we want you to equally schedule individual appointments. You can do that with reaching out to my colleague, Johanny. Here's her telephone number, 530-289-6286. We are an appointment-based company. We like to dedicate our time to our consumers, so we ask every consumer to make an appointment. It allows for us to go over in detail, and it gives you ample time to address whatever concerns, write down any questions, really gives us the opportunity to sit with you one-on-one. And we know that some people are a little bit weary of talking about their financial situations in the crowd, but equally, that crowd situation is always good too, because what that does is allows for you to meet other people who are equally going through things that you're going through. And they may ask a question that you've been dying to ask, or you might ask a question that they've been dying to ask. So these types of forums are great. They allow for that to happen. Plus, as I stated, the appointments are there for every consumer to make. As you are a consumer or a customer with ours, again, you have to do your part because we're going to do ours. No question about it. We're going to do our part for you, the consumer. We just need the consumers now to equally be involved. It's your credit ultimately. And to improve your credit, we don't take power of attorney. We do not want any of your information to be in our databases because even though we operate on the most securest nets possible, still you never know what could potentially happen out there. So we don't want to put you at risk with having your personal information in our databases like social security numbers, things of that nature. We will never ask for your social security number. Anything that we ask or of you to do, it's always that you're the one inputting it, you're the one doing all of the energy of exhausting the energy into making sure that those things are gone. Our job is to provide you with everything. And I like to always put it in this type of situation. You're wanting to build a house, and you found that perfect plot of land. It overlooks that wonderful view. You're going to have sun coming in from all angles. We're there to help you dig up that plot. We're there to help you lay the foundation. No matter what you want, if you want a shack or if you want a palatial palace, we are there to help you build that foundation. That's the building blocks to anything, foundation. But we will, under no circumstance, and I repeat this, under no circumstance will we build your house. And that's the best way I can possibly put it out there. We'll be there every step of the way to provide you with all of the tools, all of the wood, all of the spackling, all of everything that you want in there. You want gold toilet bowls? Guess what? We'll go and melt the gold for you. But we're not going to build your house. Can't build your house because you're living in it. And that's the best way to get consumers to understand, hey, you know what? That makes perfect sense. All right, so check out our website, our social media pages. The Leverage Credit Recovery website is full of information. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Snapchat, we're on Twitter. We really want our consumers to know that we are there for them. That concludes our PowerPoint presentation. What questions you got for me, Don?
I'm basically in pretty good shape. I'm just getting ready to send out another round of letters to the company.
Okay.
Get them.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, we all being offered to them earlier. They didn't even respond.
So you never got anything. You never got anything back from them from that last round that we did.
Nothing. All they did was they did come back and they delayed the court date to July.
Okay, so we're talking now about the summons, correct?
Right.
Okay,
right.
So the summons, as I always tell you, there's nothing really that you can do about that. And the reason why is because your creditor is delaying it. or shall we say the law firm is delaying it.
Sure.
And the reason why they're delaying it is they're hoping, again, that you give up. That's their ultimate goal. If you give up, they can force you into a default. And that's what they're hoping. They're hoping you don't show up. They're hoping that you don't respond to something. Then they got you.
Yeah, they just sent a letter saying that the court date's been changed to July 22nd, that they haven't heard anything from the other company that was handling the stuff for us, and we're not anymore.
Right. And what we're going to ultimately do as well is we're going to draft up, they're called offer letters.
Right.
We're going to send Go ahead.
We sent a set of offer letters already.
And we're going to do it again. Again, when you go to court in July and you have offer letters to show the courts that, hey, I'm not running from this. I've been running to it. Even if your offer is laughable, their duty is to respond to it. That's why we have these types of situations. That's why the courts would look very favorable upon you when you say, hey, you know what, Your Honor, I've been attempting to resolve this. I don't want to waste your time. I've been attempting to do everything in my power to get them to communicate with me, and they haven't done not one thing. So the judge is going to look over at the other side and go, well, how come?
Now, the last time we were there, the law firm called everyone out of the court and discussed this outside the courtroom.
Oh, yes.
About trying to settle.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, no, we're not doing that. Now, the question I have is, okay, they got it now scheduled for the 22nd of July. If they come out again and say, okay, let's go outside and talk, you know, what if they say you want to do it or not, we're going to say, hey, we made you offers. Let's go and talk to the judge or ask for a jury to make a decision.
Right.
Because we've been attempting, you haven't done anything. You haven't done what we asked.
There it is. And that's you're within your legal rights to basically say, I'm sorry. Here's letter number 1, here's letter number 2, or whatever, how many letters that you have. We've addressed them to you. Why haven't you guys taken that liberty of at least writing back or corresponding back? Again, an offer is what works in your best interest. Because it tells it tells your pocket that, hey, this is what I can do. And again, without any proof, these individuals, again, are coming to court with absolutely nothing in hand. Nothing.
Yeah. She's basically a paralegal for them. And I'm wondering, okay, if she says, okay, we're done, we'll reschedule. I'm going, well, wait a minute. Why don't we go in and see the judge now? Could we push it to ask for the judge to see us that day? Or not?
Likelihood of seeing a judge that day probably would extend the calendar. They might put you back towards the afternoon. I doubt it because, as you say, this is just a paralegal. So she technically can't speak on behalf of the law firm. She can be a representative to talk to you, but I don't think that she can go in front of the judge and speak to the judge. Right.
That's what I'm thinking, too. So, you know, again, it's an intimidation to get these people to go ahead and pay for them rather than hide it.
Exactly. So, I mean, you're understanding the game. And the thing is, how well can you play it?
Well, the thing is, we had the first letter we sent them asking for all this documentation. And they didn't do it. Send back copies of the bills that they sent me. I said, that's not documentation. We asked for a bunch of other stuff.
Yep.
They've only one out of about 8.
Because that 1 out of about 8 is the only one item that they have. Because it only goes to show that they're not working for the institution that they claim they're working for.
Right.
Because go ahead.
There's nothing, I've seen nothing as far as where they have a contract with this company to handle that. They buy it in bulk probably. There it is. That's just one of 10 or 20.
Yep.
So, okay.
So you're going about it in the right manner. I would just, me personally, as someone who's taken an oath to protect and to serve this country from all enemies, I understand my oath. I don't think law firms now understand their oath. Yeah. And they're supposed to uphold the law. And a lot of these gougers and greedy scoundrels, they're not about upholding the law. They're about gouging. They're about taking consumers to task and obviously using the guilt tactics to get consumers to pay for something that technically they should not be paying for. Now, I'm not saying you don't owe. What I'm basically saying is that, yes, you owe, but if I as a business take a bad debt deduction and I get a reduction, obviously that reduction word, and I get that item reduced, how is it that I still owe you the same amount? If I owe you anything, I owe you the reduced amount. And it's your duty, because you're the one who has that document, not you, the consumer, but that institution. They have the document showing what they actually received back. So present the item. And the reason why they don't want to present the item, because that would now be considered fraud. You're now defrauding the courts, defrauding the consumer with a bogus lawsuit.
Right.
And this is what we're exposing right there, the fraud.
Yeah, because there's nothing that, this law firm is saying that I owe them this money because I owe this other company. And I'm going, I don't have any signed agreement with them, and I don't know them from Adam.
From Adam.
It's one of those things that, I could go out tomorrow and get a license to go after this type of stuff and say, hey, you owe me, and there's nothing that indicates that really I do.
There it is. And the saddest part about it is, Donald, you don't even need a license. You can just buy debt. If you have deep enough pockets to where you can go out and buy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, you can go to those consumers and say, hey, I own your debt now.
Yep.
So all you have to do is have the savvy enough to be able to go to the courthouse and fill out the paperwork to sue somebody, and that's it. That's small claims court. You don't need a license to go to small claims court.
No.
Not in the least bit.
If I can go through and the small claims, I think now is $1,700. If I can go through and get 5 or 6 people a week or month, there's almost $10,000 I'd have coming in to me.
Do you know what kind of income that would be?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And again, you're only buying this for, say, as I stated before, you got to say you had $1,000 debt. $1,000 times 4 cents.
$40.
There you are. $40. So you paid $40 for $1,000 debt, and then you're going to turn around to the consumer because they know that they had that $1,000 in a debt, and they're going to now offer the consumer 60%. So the consumer's like, ooh, at least I don't have to pay $400. Now I'm going to only have to pay $600, not knowing that they bought that debt for $40.
Right.
So again, if these companies were on the up and up, why would they even reduce it to begin with?
Right.
Why wouldn't they just say, hey, well, you owe me the whole entire amount?
Yeah, well, they haven't even addressed a reduced amount yet because they're still playing the waiting game.
Exactly. They're hoping that you don't respond. They're hoping that you don't do something to where they can then run to the judge and go, ha-ha, got him.
Now, they sent me a letter saying that we've rescheduled for July 22nd.
Okay.
I responded to that letter and said, I'll see you then.
Did it come per server process?
No, it was just a letter in the mail.
Okay, then no, you don't need to do anything. I'm going to get with your honey, and I'm going to remind her to remind me to do an offer letter for you. And I know you got 5 summonses there, so we're going to be doing 5 offer letters.
Okay.
And again, this is just repetitive. You're just going to repetitively, constantly keep sending them because, as I stated, when you go to court, and then we're also at some point going to request a jury trial. Now, and the reason why I think I told you this before is that you got to take into consideration 9 out of 10. That's the statistical number that just blows people's mind. It definitely blows my mind. But 9 out of 10 consumers don't respond, and 70% of the population, and roughly it's about 75, maybe now even as far as 80% of the population is equally going through something like what you're going through yourself. So do you really think they're going to find a jury that's going to side with them based on zero information?
Right.
That jury is going to be like, wow, Mr. Orcutt, can we speak to you afterwards? Because they're going to want to know, how did you get so smart?
Yep.
Because what's that again?
That's basically all I have to ask.
Yep. That is it. Because they're going to be looking at you like, oh my goodness. If this guy is a pro se litigant can come in here and expose these individuals in the manner in which he just did, absolutely we're going to rule against the bank. That's why they do these speedy trials. That's all these are speedy trials to get into your pocket. Nothing more.
Yep.
And if you settle, you're settling for something that technically could come back and bite you in the butt, because say you settle for 60%, there's still that remaining 40% out there. Unless you orchestrate a letter that tells them that you can't sell that remaining 40%, they're going to have you sign a document stating, yep, you're going to pay this 60%. Once you pay that 60% off, they sell the 40% to somebody else.
Well, I had that happen with a phone company that they would offer to reduce it. I paid to reduce the price, and a week or two later, here comes the phone company saying, well, we want the balance now.
There you go.
We're not at the whole thing. We went down. Yep. I never would have paid the first part. I asked you, never got the stuff.
There it is.
Not quite at that time, not quite there.
Exactly. But you're on the right track. Continue to keep doing. We sent you your last set of letters. That was on 3/18. So you still have, so that would be 3/18. 4/18 would be 30 days. For roughly about the 1st of May would be the 45 days that the law says 30, but we give them an additional 15 because they can request additional information. But again, this is the process. Allow for the process to keep doing what the process does. All right? And then ultimately you will start seeing what you're looking for. We also know that your credit score ranges are 532, 508, 542. So that's Experian 532, TransUnion 508, Equifax 542. We are seeing upward momentum right now. When we last ran that was around that 3/15 time frame. So we won't look at the credit report again until around the 4/18, 15 range, because that would be your 30 days. And at that point, we'll probably see some increases. But again, as long as we're doing what we need to be doing to maintain the credit range in which we are, and as long as we start seeing things come off, do you have active accounts now currently, or not using any credit products at all?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing now.
All right.
In fact, I've got my Social Security card and driver's license now that I can send to them and ask for some of this stuff to be removed.
Perfect. Perfect. And that's what they're going to need. Give me 1 second. I just run to the restroom really quick.
Sure.
Alrighty. So again, that's where we are. And as I stated, since you don't have any existing credit products that you're using, I would probably say once we take another look after this month, and if it's gone up, then we're going to suggest some secured cards. Because what we're seeing that's ultimately impacting your credit is the fact that there's no new items. You do have a mortgage. Is your mortgage, you're current, right?
Yep.
All right, so that's the only thing that is reporting positive. You don't have any inquiries, so that's excellent. No one, according to your public record, no one's suing you, so that's good. Let's see.
I just paid off my Dixie chopper, so that should be on there as being paid in full and good.
What's a Dixie shopper?
A mower, lawnmower.
Oh, okay. All right. So that was an installment payment.
Right.
Okay.
That's as a 4-year, 5-year installment payment.
Okay. No, but was Dixie reporting to the credit bureaus?
I don't know if they did or not.
And I don't think they did. And that's another thing that when you're getting products and services, make sure that they're reporting. If they're not reporting, it's no good. I just found out I got a loan from my credit union. And I asked the credit union because I didn't see it on my credit report. I was like, are you guys reporting it? And they were like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. You know, I was kind of like disheartened. You ran the inquiry, which brought down the score, and it only brought it down just a little bit, but you're not reporting. You know, it goes back to what I said earlier. If you're going to ding me for anything negative, why don't you reward me for good?
Yeah. Now, I sent my offer to the legal firm on November 20th, which they should have responded by December, and I've got nothing back from them.
Right. So we're just going to do new offer letters. I'm sending it out to Joe Honey now to remind me that by the end of next week, let's get you new 5 offer letters per those accounts. And I want to also address some of your personal information. What's your actual current address?
188 Memorial Drive, Dayton,
okay.
Tennessee.
Perfect. And what do you actually use as your legal name that's on your driver's license?
Donald Ray Orcutt.
Okay, so good. So these items that are not part of your personal information, we need to get this off. This, I guess, is Lyndon.
At Lyndon Johnson Freeway in Texas. I've never lived in Texas.
Wow. Wow. What about this Wyoming?
That was actually my partner's business address for the company over there.
And what about Forest Oak Park?
That was my home. Okay,
but you're not there.
Nope.
Good. And who is your actual current employer?
ETS Shaper.
Okay, so this industrial fire brick?
That was the old company.
Okay, so again, those items should be coming off your personal information. Should be off.
Right.
Shouldn't be there. And again, that yields you 77 points. You see an increase because a lot of what's on your credit report can be still linked to those items.
Right.
And I'll be sending you over a form, and that form is called our LRC personal deletion. And all you got to do, it's a lengthy form, but don't worry about the length of the form. There's 7 areas that you have to fill in. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing more. And you're just basically filling in those areas, printing it out, mailing it off, and I just had a client today who showed me a plethora of stuff that came off her credit report, all addressing the personal space.
Okay.
All right? So we have addressed everything we needed to address tonight. You're going to be getting new offer letters. That's going to start next week. You're going to get our LRC, which is the personal deletion page. We'll go over that with you if you need us to, but it's relatively simple. You'll see the items in which you have to fill in. And we'll be addressing next call, we'll be addressing the secured card situations. We want to wait and see if the score goes up within the next 30 days here. If it does, you'll be in that range where you can start. And you can go to securedcards.com or just type in your browser, secured cards, and you want to look in the ranges of where your score is. Obviously, you want to look at if they're charging an annual fee. You want to look at what the interest rates are. Again, nothing that's over 9.99. You're using your own money. Why would you want to give someone more of your own money if you're using your own money?
Now, how are you using your own money? Is it tied to a bank account?
Well, you put that money on the secured card. So say, for instance, you get a secured card that's $200. You're going to have to make a deposit of $200, and then that card acts just like a credit card. It's reported to the bureaus. It shows all your transactions. It really works very, very well for you. So we always recommend that the consumer use those types of situations.
Okay, now I have a son that has no credit.
Okay.
Never got any, never applied for any.
Okay.
He's not. He's actually disabled where he can't work.
Okay.
So he's getting disability state, but yet he's not totally dysfunctional.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of the things he'd like to get a little credit card because, like he's into gaming. So like he goes to GameStop, that type of. Well, we've had to put that under his wife's name to do a little credit card through them, and we want to get it switched to his name.
Okay.
Let him handle it. Start managing. Is the secure card a good way to do that? Probably.
A secured card is an excellent way to do that. Excellent.
Okay.
Yep, that's one of his better options. And also, before he does that, double check his credit report. You know, same thing that you did with yours, Privacy Guard. Log in there, see what's on his credit report first and foremost. If there's anything on there that might be, you know, negative in any regards before he goes out and gets a secured card. Let's double check that first. Again, that's what we call the proactive versus reactive.
Okay.
Hold up.
You got to go through and get a.
Hold on one second. Hello, Tyrone Glover speaking. Hello. Call back. Yeah, but that's the better option.
But you got to go through Privacy Guard, get him enrolled that first.
Well, it's not that you have to. It's just, again, you want to look at if there's any type of negative item in there already that could potentially be deleted off, and then you can go out and get a better interest rate on that secured card. That's what you're basically looking at. You want to get it. You want to see if there's a score to begin with. Does he have a bank account?
It's actually my wife is a representative for it. So he's on it, but he can't.
Well, then that bank account should be showing up on a credit report.
Yeah, but I think it's under the wife.
Oh, but that's, again, as long as he has put his Social Security number down to get that bank account, then it's under his name too.
Okay. I'll double check that.
Yes, please do that.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. You are all set, my friend. Always, again, please remember, share our information. Again, the biggest reason why consumers are not addressing their concerns is because of the fact that no one's addressing it with them. Families should be talking about financial situations all the time. We shouldn't be running from them. We shouldn't be running to hide from them. We should be addressing them. All right? So you're all set, my friend. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, and look forward to our next call.